Ezra chapter 8 and verse 1. Now let's go over Ezra just for a second. So at the beginning of it, they were in exile for how many years? Somebody say it. How many years were they in Babylon? 40 or 70. 70 years in Babylon. They get to come home. Who was the king that sent them back home? What was his name? Started with a Sai, ended with a Rus. Cyrus, that's good. Did everybody come back at once? Yes or no? 3 deportations. Tonight we're going to read about the second one. Really it was chapter 7. Ezra and his clan are going to come back here at the second deportation. They've laid the foundation of the temple. I think they finished the foundation of the temple. Is that right? Yeah, they dedicated the temple at the end of it in chapter 6. So the temple's finished. A month ago in Ezra, or however long ago it was, Ezra comes back home, and Ezra was there, and he was going to teach the what? What did he read aloud whenever he got back to the temple, to the house? What did he read? The law. Is that what you said? Yeah. Yeah, he read the Torah. That's right. He read the law. He was the new Moses coming to present the law to the people. Now we're going to see some things that he faces in Ezra chapter 8. Let's start in verse 1. These are the heads of their fathers' houses, and this is the genealogy of those who went up with me, with Ezra. Now notice we've switched to me here. Me from Babylon, in the reign of King Artaxerxes. And here's my understanding. I think, from what I can tell, Ezra is coming back 80 years after Zerubbabel. So we got an 80-year gap between Ezra 1 and Ezra 8. And they returned home the first time in like the 530s, okay? So we're somewhere in the well, you do the math, but we're in the 400-something BC up there somewhere, so that's where we are. In the reign of King Artaxerxes, the sons of Phinehas, Gershom, the sons of Ithamar, Daniel, the sons of David, Hattush, the sons of Shechaniah, the sons of Perosh, Zechariah, were registered with him, 150 males. All right, let me stop. All right, this is hard to read, and it's boring, and I get that completely. But it's here for a reason. I'll show you in just a second. But do you remember when Zerubbabel and them came back in chapter 1? And then in chapter 2 we had this whole list, and it was following the pattern of the Exodus. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and so here's Ezra's numbers. Every time they return back to the land, it starts listing all the people and all the names and who were there. It starts listing God's people. It's pretty cool. Okay, let's keep going in verse 3. Of the sons of Shechaniah, the sons of Perosh, Zechariah, are registered with him, were 150 males. Of the sons of Pahath Moab, Elahonai, and Zerahah, and with him 200 males. Of the sons of Shechaniah, Ben Jahaziel, and with him 300 males. And of the sons of Adin, Abid, and not Joel Embiid, and the son of Jonathan, and with him 50 males. Of the sons of Elam, Jeshishiah, the son of Athaliah, and with him 70 males. Of the sons of Shephatiah, Zebediah, and of Michael, and with him 80 males. Of the sons of Joab, Obadiah, the son of Jehiel, and with him 218 males. Notice how they're just listing the males here. Of the sons of Shelemith, Ben Josiphathiah, and with him 160 males. The sons of Bebai, Zechariah, and the son of Bebai, and with him 80 males. Of the sons of Asgad, it sounds like we're in the Avengers series, Johanan, and the son of Hakatan, with him 110 males. Of the last sons of Adonikim, whose names are these: Alephalet, Jeiel, Shemaiah, with him 60 males. Also of the sons of Bigvai, Uthiah, Zabud, and with him 70 males. Don't y'all love that in your daily reading when you get those? Isn't it cool? Okay, I think I know why that's in there. I think I know what he just did. Maybe. Look at your notes up there. Ezra was given the okay to return home in chapter 7 from the exile. Now we see the list of people who come back with him in chapter 8. This seems like Ezra's exodus, in my opinion, but to the best of my knowledge, this is what most would consider the second return from exile, and Nehemiah would come later on. The first thing that sticks out in my mind is that these 14 verses are one very long sentence. Very long sentence. The Apostle Paul did the exact same thing in the New Testament. He'd write these sentences that would go on for half a chapter. The listing begins after the colon in verse 1. Look at verse 1. These are the heads of their fathers, and this is the genealogy of those who went up with me from Babylon in the region of Artaxerxes, colon. Now, here's where it splits it the rest of the time. If you count the list, what you come up with is 12 semicolons. These 12 groupings, I think, are a representation of the 12 tribes of Israel. He's showing that all of the tribes are coming back to the land. So to say it another way, all of Israel is returning. I think that's what he's getting at. Ezra's listing is a group like the book of Numbers. Exodus imagery is all over this text, and this is the second of the 3 returns from exile. Zach, why is that in there? I don't care about those names. They're not even really that important to the Bible story, most of them. Why are they there? Why are you reading that? I think it's showing you that the 12 tribes are coming back. Okay. Now that the boring part's over, let's get into something a little bit better. Verse 15. Man, we might finish in 10 minutes. What do you know? Verse 15. Just kidding. Now I gathered them by the river that flows from Ahava, and we camped there 3 days. And I looked among the people and the priest and found none of the sons of Levi there. Why does he say that? They don't have any what? They don't have any priest. We're priestless. Is that good or bad? Bad. If we don't have any priest, why are we going back to a temple? Then I sent Eleazar, Ariel, Shemaiah, Elnathan, Jarib, Elnathan, another Elnathan, Nathan, not Elnathan, Zechariah and Meshullam, leaders also for Joarib and Elnathan, men of understanding. There's 1, 2, 3. We got 4 Nathans in this section. I graduated. My name is Zachary Taylor Davis. I graduated with a kid named Zach Price Davis. What are the chances that 2 people out of 55 graduates have the exact same name? And then a kid a grade above us, his name was Zach Price. So we had Zach Davis, Zach Price Davis, and Zach Price. We was all over it. We also had a Zach Pretty, so that was cool. Anyway, what verse am I in? 16, yeah. 17. And I gave them command for Iddo, the chief man at the place of Casiphia, and I told them what they should say and do to Iddo and his brethren, the Nethinim, at the place Casiphia. Now, the Nethinim are not like the Nephilim, so don't think that. Earlier in chapter 1, we looked at the Nethinim. Maybe it was chapter 2. Chapter 2, we looked at the Nethinim. They were outer servants in the temple, so they're important to this story. That they should bring us servants for the house of our God. Then, by the good hand of our God upon us, they brought us a man of understanding of the sons of Mali, of the son of Levi, the son of Israel, namely Sherebiah, with his sons and his brothers, 18 men, Hashabiah, and with him Jeshaiah, the sons of Merari, his brothers and their sons, 20 men of the Nethinim, whom David and the leaders had appointed for service of the Levites, 220 Nethinim. All of them were designated by name. Pause. Back to our notes. The journey in return for Ezra and those with him did not come without opposition. Just as Moses faced opposition in his Exodus and the New Testament Exodus, they faced enemies there. When you get to the New Testament, they face them all the time. It's the unbelieving Jews. There were those lying in wait for Ezra. So we got these people who are coming and they're going to wind up trying to hammer Ezra and the boys and all these other issues. The following is from the Topical Encyclopedia of the Bible. Now listen to what this says about this river Ahava, because they're crossing a river. Let me just stop for a second here and let's think about what's happening. I love this board. It's one of my favorites of all time. Oh, this works. Okay. We're in Babylon. We get a decree. Upon the decree, we're going down here to a land. Yep. Is that better? That's all I got. Now they can't see. We're going to a land. That's where we're headed. This is where the temple is. Temple's down there. We're headed there. They get a decree. He gets to go home. Now, this place is like they're in a wilderness, okay? So, well, let's put it this way. They're going to pass through the wilderness. We got this period, which is what we just read, where they're not there yet, but they're not here. So, we're not here, but we're headed here, and we're not there yet. Is that good with everybody? I just see the Exodus that's all over this. Now tell me what happened. If I said, review the first Exodus for me, started at the night Moses kills the Passover lamb on the 15th, go from there. Let's just, real quick summary of the Exodus story. Go. What happens? And they kill the lamb. What time does the death angel come? Midnight. The death angel kills who? All the firstborn sons of those who didn't have the doorpost covered. Is that good? They wake up the next day and they do what? They leave. What did the Egyptians give them on the way out? Yeah, they pretty much gave them everything, right? They just turned it all over to them. They take the plunder and the spoils and they head off. Where do they come to? What's the very first place they come to there? The Red Sea. They cross the sea. Then they head to Mount Sinai. Is that good with everybody? You tracking with me so far? We spend 40 days at Sinai. Then we spend 40 years in the wilderness. Right before they go into Canaan, into the promised land, what they have to cross? Do you remember? Say it, Bubba. That's why you do your daily Bible reading, kids, so you know the answers in church. They had to cross the Jordan River. They crossed the Jordan River, then they go take Jericho and go into the land. Is that good with everybody? In chapter 15, we're at the point where Joshua crossed, in verse 15, we're at the point where Joshua crossed the Jericho, but they're going to cross the Ahava River, okay? So look at it in our notes. The exact location of the river Ahava is not definitively known, but it's generally believed to be a canal or a waterway in the region of Babylon, possibly near the Euphrates River. The name Ahava may refer to a district or specific watercourse that served as a gathering point for the exiles. The strategic choice of this location for assembly and spiritual preparation indicates its importance as a logistical and symbolic starting point for the journey to Jerusalem. Verse 15 screams the Joshua story as they camped before this river for how long? 3 days. Joshua chapter 3, verse 1. Then Joshua rose early in the morning, and they set out for Acacia Grove, and they came to the Jordan, he and all the children of Israel, and they lodged there before they crossed over the Jordan. So it was after how many days? 3 days that the officers went through the camp. So think about the same. You got another Exodus story. Ezra's there. Joshua tells the officers to go through the camp. Ezra tells the Levites, appoints them, goes through the camp. We're getting ready to cross. We're going to have this 3-day fast, and then we'll go across there and we'll get in here. Consecrate yourselves. Set yourself apart. We're getting ready to go. Ezra proclaims a fast for 3 days before they cross the river to go back into the land. Also note, they are moving from Babylon, which is on the east side. Okay, so they're heading east to west, just like Joshua did. Now let me give you a picture here. So when I think about the Bible, I always think about the maps that are in the back of the Bible, okay? That's just in my mind all the time. So here's the Mediterranean Sea, okay? Egypt's down here, all right? The Red Sea is like right in here, Red Sea, RS. Has everybody got that? I'm the best drawer in the world. Jerusalem's like right here. And the Jordan River is like right here. So here's what they do when they leave Egypt. Now you would just think, if I'm going to go through the Red Sea, I'd just go straight up here on this side, right? What's the problem with that? Well, we'd be heading west to east. In the Bible, the transition from unrighteousness to righteousness is every single time it is east to west. Watch this. Here's what they do. They cross the Red Sea, and then they start doing this mess. Circles. And then you know what they did? They go over this way, and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to go east to west, cross the Jordan River, and go into the land. Now what sense does that make? Oh, that's the way God did it all the time. When Lot goes to Sodom, guess which way it says he goes? East into sin. When Adam gets kicked out of the garden, guess which way he goes? East every time. Lot leaves Sodom, he heads west and goes up on the mountain to Abraham. Stories are everywhere. And pictures are good. Like, the Bible is really, really good. When they're in the temple, the priest would move east to west. That's the whole point. We're heading west. They were all trying to go to California back then. So think about this. Babylon's way over here on the east side of the known world. Babylon's over there. Ezra's coming this way. He crosses the Ahava, which was probably way out here, and they're coming back into the land. Same idea. That's why it's there. That's why Hava's in the text. It's the new Jordan. They're crossing it in the Exodus. Verse 21. Pay attention. We're almost done. Told you it wouldn't be a long one. Then I proclaimed a fast there at the river Ahava. He proclaims a fast at Ahava that we might humble ourselves or consecrate ourselves, just like Joshua told him to do, before our God, to seek from Him the right way for us and our little ones and for all our possessions. Now, do you remember the famous story that Joshua says, and I think it's in Joshua 24, it's later. He says, us and our little ones, we're consecrating ourselves, here's what we're going to do. Remember what Joshua said, the famous verse? Choose this day whom you will, but for me and my family or my house, we will serve the Lord. It's the same idea. So we're all over this. Okay, let's keep going. For I was ashamed, watch this, I was ashamed to request of the king an escort of soldiers and horsemen to help us against the enemy on the road, because we had spoken to the king. All right, watch this. You're Ezra. A third of the people have already gone back. Ezra goes to Artaxerxes and he says, hey, look, you've elevated me just like Pharaoh did to Joseph. You've elevated me like all the people get elevated in the Bible at the right hand. It's time for me to go back and worship with my people. Hey, God's for us. He's doing something in the land. We're going to go back. So they get out there, and Ezra's like, we're getting ambushed. All these people are coming after us. And he's like, man, I really don't want to go back to Artaxerxes and say we need soldiers. Think about that. Just think about it. Okay. Why? In the middle of verse 22. Because the hand of our God is upon all those for good who seek Him. But His power and His wrath are against all those who forsake Him. So we fasted and entreated our God for this, and He answered our prayer. Now you say, Zach, why are all these bad guys wanting to come after Ezra and all them? Why are they doing that? Why do they want them? What do they care about them? Ooh, pick me, I know. I want to ask this before we get there. Remember in the Exodus, Brenda said it a while ago, the Egyptians gave them a whole bunch of stuff when they headed to Canaan. Well, the same thing Artaxerxes gives to Ezra and them returning home. Modern equivalency, how much money do you think Ezra and the boys were walking around with in this wilderness after they crossed to Ahava? Don't cheat and read it in the notes. Guess. Modern equivalency. $500? Hudson says no. What do you think, Hudson? Give me a number. Just guess. Nobody in here knows it. Throw out a number. $700. Give me another guess. Higher. $1 million. Higher. How much? Not even close. Higher. Higher. $3 billion. Them jokers are traveling with $3 billion. Modern money. Why do you think people are going after them? That's why. This is so good, man. It's so good. Oh, it's so good. Stop. Just stay with me. Stay in the story. Let's keep reading. I want to keep going. Verse 24. We said $3 billion, so we got everybody's attention. I separated 12 of the leaders of the priests, Sherebiah, Hashabiah, and 10 of their brethren with them. He got tired of saying their names too. And weighed out to them the silver and the gold and the articles of the offering for the house of our God, which the king and his counselors and his princes and all Israel who were present had offered. I weighed into their hand 650 talents of silver, silver articles weighing 100 talents, 100 talents of gold, 20 gold basins worth 1,000 drachmas, and 2 vessels of fine polished bronze, precious, underline that word, as gold. And I said to them, you are holy to the Lord, the articles are holy also, and the silver and the gold are a freewill offering to the Lord, the God of your fathers. Watch and keep them until you weigh them before the leaders of the priests and Levites and heads of the fathers' houses of Israel and Jerusalem in the chambers of the house of the Lord. So the priests and the Levites received the silver and the gold and the articles by weight to bring them to Jerusalem. Now, where were they bringing them? This is important. Where are they bringing them? All this good stuff. Where is it coming into? It says it in the text. This is not a trick question. To bring them to Jerusalem, to the house of our God. They're bringing... just better on a board. That's all I know to tell you. Here's the temple. They're bringing the gold, the silver, all the rest of it from Babylon. And they're bringing it here, and they're bringing it into the temple. Does that make sense to everybody? Babylonians, these guys, where they got it from? Jews or Gentiles? They're Gentiles. The wealth of the Gentiles comes into the city, into the temple. Is that good? Does that make sense to everybody? Isaiah 60, guess what it predicts would happen when Jesus shows up and builds his temple, his spiritual temple? Wealth of the Gentiles flow into it. Revelation 21, guess what happens? The kings of the nations bring their wealth into the kingdom and the city of God. Beautiful picture. It's all over this story. Look at our notes. Verse 21 at the bottom. In verse 22, Ezra points out that they were relying on God. We going back? We going to let God solve this deal? Well, we got it. They were going to let God get them through this and not physical force. Pointing forward possibly to the New Testament writers where Jesus states that the return to the presence of God, when they would inherit the kingdom, would not be accomplished by physical force. You remember Matthew 26 where Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight." There's a famous psalm, and I don't remember where it is in the Psalms, but it's talking about the Exodus, and it says, "Some trust in chariots, some trust in horses, but we will trust in the name of the Lord our God." How many of y'all ever heard that verse? You ever heard that verse? Yeah, it was in, that famous Blackaby study, not Desiring God. What's the name of it? Experiencing God. That was it. All right, let's keep reading. Just as the New Testament emphasizes in Romans 8:28 that all would work out for the good of those who trust God, Ezra declares the same thing, okay, saying, boys, if you'll put your faith in the Lord and trust in Him, He'll take care of everything else in your life. You know what's cool about the Bible too? Me and you ain't taking no trip across the Ahava. We ain't got $3 billion worth of gold we're trying to get back to a temple in Jerusalem. But I guarantee you, every one of you, from kids to the oldest person in this room, you got something that is precious to you in your life. You got things that you care about in your life. There's somebody that's coming against you in your life in something. You got a Satan. You have a Satan, an enemy, an adversary in the way. And you got to make a decision about how you're going to respond to it. Ezra tells the people, we're going to trust God in every situation, and we're going to do the right thing, and we're going to trust that He's going to take care of it. Now, have you ever been in a situation where you trusted God and you did the right thing and He didn't take care of it like you thought He ought to take care of it? Yeah, I have. I've been there. And it happens. And it stinks. And I'm like, Lord, what are you doing? And I'm reminded that, Zach, my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. And that's humbling. But you know what happens most of the time in my life? When I trust God and do the right thing as to what He's told me to do and what I know to do, whatever it is, whether I'm carrying $3 billion or whether I'm trying to lead a church or lead a family or whatever it is, man, if I trust in God and do the right thing, all those things that are in my life that seem like y'all ever had stuff in your life that seems like it is the worst devastating thing ever? And then you got somebody else that comes up and talks to you and they're like, man, I got this and this going on in my life, and you're looking at them. I know I do this sometimes counseling, and I'm like, man, that really don't seem like that's that big of a deal. And it's not to me, but it is to them. And there's things in your life that's a major deal to you that's not to somebody else. Sometimes I don't always have the ability to sympathize with somebody in that situation. Sometimes I do. Or empathize. But God does every single time. And if you're His, He cares about you. And He's calling you to righteousness and to respond to it a certain way. Respond to it a certain way. I don't think that your enemies in your life are just random. I think that God places them there to grow you, to see how you respond. We mess stuff up all the time. I can go back to my teenage years, and I can go back to 5 weeks ago that I messed stuff up over and over and over again. But somewhere down the line, God's going to give me another chance to demonstrate that I've matured and that I'm closer to Him and that I'm trusting in Him. I really believe those things. And you got somebody as spiritually mature as Ezra out here crossing the whole deal. It would have been super easy. Think about this. It would have been super easy for him to go back and say, Artaxerxes, I know you love me. Just let me get an army and let me make it all the way to the temple. He said, this ain't the way it's going to be done. I'm going to trust in the plan God laid out for me. I'm going to trust Him to get it through. You know what it reminds me of? Y'all remember when Jesus was arrested in the garden and they come to get Him? You remember what He told them? That His disciples are looking around like, what in the world? And Jesus says, boys, if I wanted to call down 12 legions of angels, I'd call them down. but it ain't the way. That's the same thing I see in Ezra right there. It's like, nope, this is how it's going to be. And I'm going to trust God's going to get me through it. And just as the Father raised the Son from the grave, Ezra's going to make it back to the homeland here with all the gold and the spoils. So, look at this. The New Testament emphasizes in Romans 8:28 that all would work out for the good for those who trust God. Ezra declares the same thing. Also, Ezra declares that wrath would come upon those who were against God. He's saying, these robbers that are lying in wait, that they're coming out here to get us. By the way, the New Testament speaks of the enemies of the church as lying in wait to come and snare them and trap them. It says that wrath would come upon those who were against God, just like in the New Testament. A practical point for this chapter is how often Ezra notes that they were seeking God. It didn't matter what's going on in Ezra. We're seeking God, we're seeking God, we're seeking God. And Ezra knows, as long as I'm seeking God, everything in my life is going to be okay. You know what it reminds me of? Well, the New Testament. Look at the top of the back page of the notes we flipped. Just as Jesus declared in Matthew chapter 6 in the Sermon on the Mount, seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and everything else in your life will be taken care of if God's people are faithful to do that. I know you got worries and concerns and things that are going on in your life. Let me tell you what to do. Do what Ezra told the people to do. We're going to seek Him, 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 we're going to seek Him. He'll take care of it. He will take care of it. Y'all remember that song, that hymn? Be not dismayed, whate'er betide, God will take care of you. That's every minute. That's it. Like, seek Him. He'll take care of it. So we might ask this question. Why would Ezra be worried about needing a king's help to get home? Well, just like Moses' Exodus, when the people were given the plunder of Egypt, so too are the people in Ezra's day given great spoils to bring into the temple in the Promised Land. What I read states that they were carrying the modern equivalent of $3 billion in treasure on this return trip. Now, the wicked, here we go. Here's the best part of the whole deal. So if you hadn't paid attention yet, get this part. What did we just say to do when we get in trouble and we're worrying? What are we going to do? What did we just emphasize that Ezra said over and over we were going to do? We're going to seek Him. Seek Him. Seek Him. He will take care of it. But this is the best part. That big paragraph on the back page says this. The wicked want what the people of God have. I mean that with all my heart. The wicked want what the people of God have. Here's the problem. They don't want to acquire it the same way, which is by faith and in righteousness. I really think people want peace. But some people want it different ways than other people want it. Now, some people don't want peace. But there are wicked people that wanted the things that Ezra had, but Ezra knew it was his because he was trusting in God. That was his emphasis. The wicked want what the people of God have, but don't want to acquire it the same way by faith and righteousness. The wicked take it by force, just as Jesus said in Matthew chapter 11. And from the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffers violence, and the violent take it by force. You say, Zach, what spiritual implication does $3 billion that they're carrying in the wilderness have to do with this temple? What does it matter? If they don't get all this stuff back, guess what they can't properly do when they get over here? Can't worship. Ain't no worship stuff going on. Zero worship going on if we don't get this stuff. We got to have all this stuff to worship under the old covenant. Got to have it. We need the money to go buy animals and all this stuff so we can kill them. Okay, Zach, how does that apply to the New Testament? Well, what He gave the New Testament church is better than $3 billion that Ezra had in the wilderness. Some of you don't believe me. You say, Zachary, I'd have to see that and played out. I'd like to have about $3 billion and test it. Let's keep reading. What the people of God have is a precious treasure. I want to challenge you to do this. Go through your Bible, read the New Testament, especially Paul and Peter. Go read Paul and Peter, and you go underline and circle how many times they say precious, 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 precious. And you know who the most precious person that they emphasize is? Jesus. 1 Peter, man, says that He is precious. He's the commodity, greater than any gold or silver that Ezra and them had. He's the precious one that they obtained. Watch this. What the people of God have is a precious treasure. It was a physical example in the Old Testament as they headed into the land. But in the New Testament, it's the spiritual reality of the blessing and inheritance of the kingdom and eternal life. They had a treasure in the New Testament Exodus, but it wasn't physical. It was the knowledge and the revelation of Jesus Christ. Now think about that. You got these wicked Jews who they want to inherit all the promises that God's made before them. You with me on that? But they didn't want to inherit by trusting in God's plan, by trusting in the Messiah. How'd they want to inherit and be sovereign and rule and have their kingdom? What'd they want to do? How'd they want to take it? By force. Who'd they want to fight? They wanted to fight the Romans. Ezra's like, nah, we're not going to physically fight them. We'll let God take care of it. We're going to trust God. He's going to give us the kingdom. We're going to trust God that He's going to bring us into the land. Just like Ezra trusted God to bring him into the land. And what they had, though, was precious. Now, can you imagine if you're watching the New Testament disciples and prophets and apostles, and they're running around healing people, raising them from the dead, and speaking in tongues? Can you imagine that? Do you think they were jealous of them all the time? Do you not think in the back of their mind, as they're going to arrest these Christians and throw them in jail or beat them or stone Stephen or Paul's going to get them, any of that, you don't think in the back of their mind they're thinking, they got something a little different than what we got. That's exactly what they were thinking. Watch this. They had a treasure in the New Testament Exodus, but it wasn't physical. It was the knowledge and revelation of Jesus Christ. Paul wrote this in 2 Corinthians 4. It's the God who commanded light to shine out of darkness, who has shone in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. But we have this treasure. Notice, what's it call it? We have a what? See how he called it a treasure? Paul understood what they had. Their precious treasure in the New Testament Exodus journey was the knowledge and revelation of Jesus Christ. And friends, I want to tell you today, that's the most precious thing that we have too. If you're here today and you know the Lord Jesus Christ, then you have knowledge and revelation of Jesus Christ. We have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellence of the power may be of God and not of who? We're not going to physically establish this kingdom. We're going to trust God to get this thing done, just like Ezra did. They had found the treasure in Christ, and they were set to inherit the kingdom. But the wicked Christ-rejecting Jews wanted to hang on to it without faith, but judgment awaited them. All right, let's close this. Read our last few verses in verse 31. Ezra says in verse 31, "We departed from the river of Ahava on the 12th day of the first month to go to Jerusalem. And the hand of our God was" what? He's with us. He's upon us. "And He delivered us from the hand of the enemy and from the ambush along the road. So we came to Jerusalem and we stayed there for how long?" How long they stay there? Okay, 12, 13, 14. Okay. One, two, three. What day do they come back into the land? Okay, look at it there. Verse 33. "On the fourth day, the silver, the gold, and the articles were weighed in the house of our God by the hand of Meremoth." Meaning, on the fourth day, we went back in. So what day did they go back in? Leave? Remember what Moses said? On the 14th night, we're going to kill the Passover lamb. On the 15th, guess what happens? We head out. Same idea. This is an Exodus story all over the place. So, seeing you there. All right, let's keep going. "On the fourth day, the silver and the gold and the articles were weighed in the house of God by the hand of Meremoth, the son of Uriah, the priest. And with him was Eleazar, the son of Phinehas. With them were the Levites, Jozabad, the son of Jeshua, Noadiah, the son of Binnui, the number and the weight of everything. All the weight was written down at that time. The children of those who had been carried away captive, who had come from captivity, who had come from the captivity, offered burnt offerings to the God of Israel, 12 bulls for all of Israel, 96 rams, 70 lambs, 12 male goats as a sin offering. All this was burnt offering to the Lord. And they delivered the king's orders to the king's satraps and the governors in the region beyond the river. So they, those beyond the river, other Gentiles, gave support to the people and to the house of God." To our notes. The Exodus theme is capped off in this section as they wait on the 12th and enter on the 15th. This is the same day Moses headed down the Exodus. Upon arrival, Ezra and the people offer sacrifices of praise to God, and the people beyond the river are given King Artaxerxes' command to submit to Ezra's God and authority. Think about it. Artaxerxes gives the commission, and all the people, not just the Jews, are to follow suit. They do so by the outsiders/Gentiles sending support or giving gifts for the house of God, just as the Egyptians gave Moses and the boys spoil on their journey, and like Paul said in Ephesians 2, that the Gentiles were being built up in the house of God. It's a beautiful story, beautiful picture. Two things I want you to take away. Number one, Ezra told them to continually seek God. Here's the deal. When you're reading the Bible, put it in context first. Then go and apply it to your life. I want to read Ezra 8, and I want to walk out of here. Here's what I did. When I was growing up, a preacher would stand up and he would say, here's the text, here's how you apply it to your life. Okay? There's a problem with that. If I don't know what this text is about and understand the story, I don't know how it applies to my life. You say, Zach, what does Ezra bringing $3 billion back to a temple have anything to do with my life? Nothing. But here's what this story does do for you. It teaches you how God interacts with His people. And that's how you learn it. So how did God interact with them? Well, it's pretty simple. First thing, number one, God put them in an impossible situation. Y'all ever seen that movie Secondhand Lines? It's my favorite movie of all time, probably. Y'all know Secondhand Lines? Who was that actor? Robert Duvall? Y'all remember that? He's hilarious. Dude was absolutely hilarious. Remember him, Robert Duvall, and that other guy that played Alfred on Batman? I don't know his name, but anyway, he was in it. They go in that bar in Secondhand Lines, and them younger punks are in there. And there's 5 of them, and they got that little boy that's with them. Y'all remember? You seen this movie? Man, this is a good movie. You got to go look this up. Remember? And Herb was Alfred's name. I don't remember what his real name is in life. But Robert Duvall's over there, and it's 5-on-1, these young, strong-looking kids. And here's what happened. They all start picking this fight on Robert Duvall, and the young boy who's with them looks at Herb, and he says, are you not going to help him? He said, help him? He don't need help. He said, it's 5-on-1. He said, no, he's good. He's got it. And then Robert Duvall whoops all 5 of them in that bar. Y'all don't remember this story? Y'all got to go look up Secondhand Lines and go watch it. You'll love it. It's really good, okay? There's a princess and Jasmine and all this other stuff, okay? It's great. Anyway, they're in an impossible situation. How many times you feel like God's done put you in an impossible situation in your life? Why? Say, Zach, I want to know how it turns out. I want to know how it turns out. Well, guess what God don't do? He ain't telling anybody up front. If I'm Daniel, I'd be, hey, we're going to have to reason about this lion's den just for a second, okay? Like, we're going to figure this. If I'm David, I'd be back there praying behind the mountain. Lord, you sure you're going to kill this big, ugly joker? Like, are we sure how this is going to go? But it's faith, man. He puts them in impossible situations and says, trust me. Seek me. And if you'll do this, here's what your God promises you. No matter how it turns out, or how, I'm going to tell you, we do this all the time, and we're like, well, man, it's always good for God's people. They trust God, and they win every time. Like Facing the Giants. Y'all remember the movie Facing the Giants? Have y'all seen that one? Y'all ain't seen squat, man, in the words of Hunter. You seen that one? Remember Facing the Giants? There's all the kids are bad, and they're losing football games, and they all get saved, and they win the state championship, right? Okay, like, cool movie, but it don't always work out that way for God's people. Have you ever read Hebrews 11? Hebrews 11 says, and this guy lived by faith, and he was slaughtered. And this guy lived by faith, and he was beaten. And this guy lived by faith, and he was stoned. But you know what it calls them at the end of it? Blessed. God says, I got it. You know how it works out for them in the end? No matter what would have happened there, which this story couldn't be stopped. They wind up in God's presence. Back to worship in the temple. I think that's about the simplest way I can put it. I read these, I'm going to tell you guys, if you met me 6 years ago and you said, Zach, we're going to read Ezra 8, I'd have been as bored as every one of them were just now for about the last 40 minutes, okay? Like, I get it. But man, when you understand the story of the Bible, then I know how to apply it to my life. I get the context. Now I know what he's saying. I got it. But I want to do all the rest of it first before I go straight to that. So, yeah, I don't want to read those names just like I made fun of my dad when he would read them when we would sit down for family worship. Like, I know, I get it. How bored did you get, Bubba, in the book of Numbers reading all those names? I mean, that's just part of it. but they're there for a reason, and it's showing us something, and it's cool, man. So if you're here tonight and you're in a possible situation like Ezra was, trust him, seek him. You will seek me and you will find me when you do what? What does it say? Does anybody know? You will seek me and you'll find me when you search for me with all your heart. Go after him. He'll listen. And he'll say, I got it. He'll take care of you. You'll wind up. I think, you know what happens to me in my life? Whether it's what people would consider working out for good or working out for bad. When I get to the end of it, every time in my life, as mad as I sometimes might get at God, you know what I do about a month later, a week later, a day later, or a year later? I love God more than I did before I went through it. Isn't it funny how that works out? Like, how you put me through that, and I love you more at the end of it. Ezra, you know what Ezra was probably thinking in the middle of that deal? He's going out to the people, probably sometimes like I do y'all, I'm saying, trusting God, trusting God, trusting God. And at the same time, Ezra's back here praying, like Moses. You should have just killed us. Like, we really got to go through all this? He's got you. Whatever it is, he's got you. Y'all can act like it's not cool to y'all, but I know some of y'all are listening. I know you got stuff going on in your life, and I'm going to tell you this. He's got you. He's got every one of you. Trust him. Seek him.